Hi everybody. I'm Tom Lupitin. I'm an elementary ed and English major, and for my part of the presentation, I spoke and researched about how gender affects education and how it is prevalent in the classroom. Okay, so before we started, I just wanted to give you guys some background information and just kind of go into just some things that I think everybody needs to know. So I have a question. Who here has just seen somebody walking down the street and just made like a snap judgment or just like had a first impression of somebody without even like talking to them? Okay, good, everybody. That's human nature, okay? We don't have to feel bad about it. That's just what is normal to us. Now, this can also happen on a mass scale when society groups a certain class or type of person in a certain way without really giving them a chance. This is called socialization. Socialization is just something that's rooted in society. A lot of things, everything empowers socialization. Going to work, family, friends, strangers even, school, especially all empower socialization. And I also have a little quote up here about socialization. Socialization is, quote, our systematic training into the norms of our culture, unquote. It helps us by, quote, learning the meanings and practices that enable us to make sense and behave appropriately in our culture, end quote. So this basically means that socialization kind of teaches us what is normal, who decides what normal is. And it places us into this role that has already been predetermined for us by people in power in society. Now, socialization is not always a bad thing. Being put into a role isn't necessarily awful. It can help us identify ourselves. It can give us a goal or a purpose. But socialization should never limit us. Just because we're put into a certain role does not mean that we should be limited to that role. We should be able to express ourselves and be able to explore different opportunities in life and not just be stuck in one place. People limiting others based off of socialization is called discrimination. And a type of discrimination is a stereotype. So just kind of again, going back to that judgment, that's not judgment. Is it always bad? No, but sometimes we can discriminate, and that's where it gets tricky. Now to kind of talk about the main point, gender roles. Gender role is a type of way that we are socialized because gender is so empowered in our society. A gender role basically gives us a specific idea about what role a male and a female should fill. People a lot of the time view gender as like a binary that, black and white, girls should do this and boys should do this. But I think that it should be, I don't think gender should be two ideas clashing against each other. It should be, boys and girls and whoever else wants to identify themselves. Everybody should be working together towards a specific goal, not being limited by socialization or discrimination or what role has been provided for them. A lot of people also receive backlash when they deviate from their gender roles. We see it in the classroom, we see it a lot of times with peers and family. We're in a place right now where some people are accepting, but we also have to be careful. Some people do not like the way others express themselves. So it's important to just know and be careful about everything. Now, gender roles in the classroom. School is a place where gender is really heavily enforced, whether teachers even realize it or not. Gender roles are enforced by doing things like splitting up the kids into boys and girls, for an activity, or going into uniforms again, which will be spoken about again in this presentation, and even teachers we were talking about before, Mr. and Mrs. Like even things like that just empowered gender roles. By second grade, a lot of kids usually have a specific idea of what their gender is and what direction in life they should be heading. Second grade, that's crazy. In the classroom, boys and girls are taught to have different goals. Boys are usually taught to be more confident, boisterous, and kind of show what they know, while girls are kind of taught to be, a little more reserved, quiet, and just kind of get their work done. And this can, this isn't bad, but it can limit people. The boys and girls are taught to act certain ways, and this can really affect them in their life, in their later lives, if they ever want to, deviate from that. It also affects them later in their lives because socialization kind of prepares us for labor and jobs. A lot of the time, boys in school are kind of pushed towards math or STEM, like science, technology, engineering, math, all that stuff. And girls are kind of pushed towards more creative roles or like teaching jobs or things like that, But we have to ask ourselves, what is a girly job or what is a boyish job? What qualifies a job as having a gender? If you can do the job, then why not just do the job? Now, this, I just spoke about socialization and limiting people a lot, and that can be kind of daunting sometimes. We look at society and it kind of seems like this overwhelming force that we can never really change. But I think it's important for everybody to know that, like it says on there, change starts with you. We as just people in society should allow kids to express themselves and let them do what they want to do as long as it's safe. I was just at the coffee shop with my mom, and before we came here, and we saw this little boy playing with his sister, and he was, they were acting so nice in the coffee shop, and he was playing with his race cars, and he was wearing a tutu, like a little dress, and he wasn't bothering anybody. He was sitting on the floor playing with his sister, playing with his race cars, and that's kind of like the whole point. Like, he's just sitting there at a coffee shop, not bothering anybody. Who am I to say, take the tutu off? He's a kid. Let him do what he wants to do. And I think that's so important for us. We did this presentation as teachers for our education class. I think that's so important for us as teachers because we have so much influence over incoming generations, and we do have a lot. We have a lot of power, and not to be too cliche about it, but we should use all that power for good. We should allow kids to express themselves the way that they want, as long as they're being careful about it. Normalization, like we were speaking about before, doesn't happen overnight. We can, even sitting in this room, though, can be enough. Here in this room, we could spark conversation about diversity and just educate people on just everybody being different and accepting that that's not always a bad thing. And to help me spark some of that conversation is our colleague Christina Martin, who could not be here today, unfortunately, but we do have her presentation on a YouTube video, and she's going to be talking about school uniforms and self-identity. So let me get this pulled up.